Hello everyone, and these are my settings of the GT DD Pro. You can also find them in the description of this video as well as on my website if you need a detailed explanation. So if you find this useful, you can always hit the like button, and I really hope that this really didn't take too much of your time. And you can also find the in-game settings here. So the in-game settings, they do vary quite a lot when it comes to driving different cars. So let's say if you're driving a Group 3 car, then I would probably go with something like a 5, maybe 5 or 6. If you're driving a Group 2, then it's 5, or if you're driving like a Group 4 car, sometimes I even like to get it up high. I would say as high as 7. But if you want to know more about each setting and what each setting does, you can stay here for a little longer and hear me out. We can start with the sensitivity of the wheel, or sen, which determines the sensitivity, of course, of your steering wheel to movement. So let's say you're driving a car with a maximum rotation of 540 degrees in-game, set the steering wheel to the same. So this direct correlation between real life and in-game movements, I think, will give you the best driving experience. So the basic idea is to match your physical and in-game wheel. I do recommend setting this one at auto. So force feedback, or FFB, replicates the mechanical resistance you would feel when turning a real car. This doesn't really replicate the same feeling, but it gets close. So adjust this between 0 to 100 to fine-tune your driving experience, but I would say my recommendation is start with 100 and change it in-game. So start with 100 on the wheel, and if you need to do some adjustments, do it in-game. So FFS, or force feedback scaling, is related to the format of the signal your wheel receives. I recommend this one at peak, and I think it's going to be quite okay. I haven't really felt any kind of difference on performance if you change it into other settings. NDP, or natural damper, adds an additional damper that you can adjust going from 100 to off. At its highest, you get the strongest dampening feeling, and turning it off means no additional damping and the wheel is kind of easy to turn. NDP also helps to reduce the unwanted wheel oscillation if you have any. And now NFR, which simulates the mechanical feel of your car steering. The higher the settings, kind of the more resistance you would feel when turning the wheel, which can prevent the oscillation and enhance the feeling of the vehicle without power steering. Natural inertia, or NIN, simulates extra weight of the steering axis. This is especially useful when using lighter wheels like the P1 or the McLaren GT3. Note, NIN also make NFR feel a little bit less sticky in direction change, but they do work independently, so none of these settings work together. And that's something that I really wanted to highlight in this video. And now force feedback interpolation, or INT, which smoothens the incoming rough game force feedback signals and increases the refresh rate. So by increasing its value, you will reduce the rough feeling and kind of enhance that smoothness of the wheel. You can set this one to off for a completely unfiltered raw force feedback, or you can adjust it from 1 to 20 for a little bit of interpolation. So now force feedback intensity, or FE. In essence, I would say FE lets you customize the sharpness or smoothness of your force feedback. So it's kind of allowing you to fine-tune the wheel's response, and you really want to match that to your personal preferences. I mean, mine is at 100, and when you're increasing the value of FE, the attack impact, or how abruptly the force feedback effects are felt, is decreased. So the higher the value, the lower you get. I mean, the force feedback, or FOR, pushes the steering wheel in a direction of any sort. I recommend this one at 100, and just as I said before, you can adjust it in-game. Spring, or SPR, makes the steering wheel return to its initial position like a real spring. I really want to skip this one because it's actually useless in GT7, and I think it's only at this point used in Forza. DPR, or damper, creates friction. While it's always best to feel the car kind of a bit better without too much dampening, I do suggest minimizing this one. NDP and DPR work independently, so please make sure to change the in-game settings after you do the ones on the wheel. So just as I explained before, force feedback settings do vary a lot when it comes to driving, let's say, a Group 2, Group 1, or even Group 3 car. I know I suggested these settings, and the setting that I like the most is usually 10. So the sensitivity of the wheel set at 10. So I tried it 1 and 10 and I never felt any difference on performance. So I guess both things can work, and I do like if you can set this one to your personal preference. Also, every car in game, just as I said before, group 1s are a little bit different, faster, and therefore they will have more force, which will lead to a more powerful steering wheel inputs. So let's say they're being heavier and the other 4, let's say group 4 cars, are being kind of lighter. So you can adjust that by changing your in-game settings accordingly. So I think I explained most of the settings, but I would really like to also get into B3 pedal settings. Please note that I'm using a brake performance kit on kind of a medium setup. So my travel of the brakes is set around about 2, and I like to put 100 of the BRF settings and then jump onto the brakes and really put a little bit more effort than the maximum I would normally do, and then once again get back into the software and change it to about 75 to 80, which is completely personal preference, and I would like to give you a recommendation, but honestly you just have to feel it. So I hope this video kind of helps you in a way, and I know I've done a previous settings video and a member of this community pointed it out to me. Also, as this video gets older, I'll update the wheel settings in the description when I change them myself. So you will see a little bit of that, which is going to be updated in the future. So if you're watching this right now, these are my settings. If you're watching it a year after, it's going to be different. So I really hope this was useful, and you can read more about this on my website. So guys, once again, thank you very much for watching this, and I will catch you next time. See ya.